Okay, Assalamualaikum Ila and Haifa. Okay, so today it looks like we have Mr. Zainal who made an appointment to meet us to discuss about his problem. So should we call Mr. Zainal now?
Waalaikumsalam. Yes, sure, let's call him now. Okay, so hi, Mr. Zainal. We're so happy to have you meet with us today. So, are you doing all right? Because we heard that you just got injured.
Yeah, it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm feeling much better now. Thank you for asking.
Oh, we are very glad to hear that, and thank you so much for being here despite your injury. So, just to make sure again, is it alright to have this session online? And yeah, we are very sorry that we could not meet face to face due to the pandemic.
It's okay, I understand. And don't worry, I'm very comfortable right now to have this session.
Okay, so great. So now we think it is better to introduce ourselves first. Okay, so my name is Miss Fatima, and here are my co-counsels. I think they can introduce themselves.
And so, hi, my name is Ila.
And I'm Miss Haifa. Okay, so before we open up our discussion, we'd like to get to know you a little bit better. So, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Alright, so my name is Zainal. I'm 35 years old and I'm going to open my new home business soon. So I come here to seek for your opinion about my options, and also I want to see what can I do with my current situation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zainal, for introducing yourself. Before we begin our discussion, we are going to briefly explain how this discussion will progress. So, firstly, we will go through the facts of your situation. We are going to ask some questions regarding your problem, then we are going to discuss some possible legal solutions among ourselves. After that, we'll go further on some potential next steps and suggestions for you to take regarding your situation. But anything we suggest is completely your choice.
Yeah, and not to forget, during this consultation, please feel free to interrupt us at any time if you have any questions or information that you think might help us. And not to forget also, at the end of this consultation, we may provide you with the representation agreement which we will have you sign if you choose us to represent you.
And strictly, we also would like to clarify that our discussion is private and confidential. So you do not have to be worried for your information getting leaked or anything because we really prioritize our clients' privacy. Okay, that's all. So, Mr. Zainal, do you have any questions that you want to ask before we start?
No, I think I'm quite clear. But I want to ask, does this consultations really gonna keep my information secure? Because I'm quite afraid that my info gonna be leaked. Because as you know, I'm a businessman, right? So I need to keep up my reputation.
Oh, I see, Mrs. Zainal. You don't have to worry at all because this consultation would be very private and confidential, as we said before. So you can be honest with us and just tell everything that you want, okay?
All right, I understood that.
Okay, good. So we have read your problem, but we are afraid of missing any important details. So do you mind to clarify us again about your situation?
Okay, to get started, I was planning to open up a new business, but unfortunately, I was hit by SUV when I was cycling by the side of the road.
So did you suffer any injury from the accident?
Yes, I did. I sprained my ankle and I had to use crutches to walk. I also even prescribed by the doctor to undergo a 12-week of physical therapy.
Oh, so maybe know how much the ankle treatment cost you?
As long as I remember, it cost me about 180.
Oh, I see. And does the crutches cost you too, or is it given for free by the hospital?
No, sadly, I have to pay for it, but it was about for 70 ringgit.
Wow, that costs you quite a lot. So how about the cost of physical therapy?
It's about 200 ringgit per week.
All right. But before we further our questions about your business, may I ask about your medical health? Like, do you suffer any disease before the accident?
As far as I concerned, I was in a good condition and never had any health complications before the injury.
I see. So now may I ask about your business then? Is it affected as well?
Yeah, because of my ankle, I could not open my business for another 4 months.
We are very sorry to hear that, Mrs. Zainal. We understand your situation, but may I ask, do you gain any earnings before opening up the home business?
Yes, I do have my own income as I have my own business. That's why it's difficult for me to work in this condition.
Hmm. That's bad. I'm really sorry to hear that. Anyway, as we need to continue the session, we would like to know, do you have any goals or aims at the end of this session?
I want to know, can I claim for the medical expenses that I have to bear because of the injury and also for the therapy that I have to undergo? And also, perhaps, can I also claim for the income lost from the 4 month delay in opening my new business?
Okay, we noted that. So for now, as you have clarified your expectations, we will go in details your problem and try to provide the best solution that you might take.
I'm on it and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, Mrs. Zainal, thank you so much for being here, and we'll contact you again. See you next time. Have a good
All right,
day.
all
Thank you,
right.
Mrs.
Thank you. And
Zainal.
good day
Thank
too.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
so now as Mr. Zainal has left, I think we should proceed to our discussion. So as we can see here, Mr. Zainal wants to claim for the medical and therapy costs and also the income loss. And he also mentioned to us that he was hit by a SUV when he was cycling beside the road. Am I right?
Yes, and not to
Yes.
forget that he also mentioned that he was in a good health before the injury. Now he needs to undergo 12 weeks of physical therapy and use crutches to walk because of the injury.
Hmm. Yes, and not to forget, he could not open his new home business for another 4 months. So now let us discuss the possible solutions. But before that, should we discuss the non-pecuniary loss damages in personal injury claims, just to distinguish and make it clear between the special damages and general damages?
Yes, I agree that we should first compare between those two types damages just to avoid any confusion.
Okay, so now I will discuss about the damages involving potential non-pecuniary loss in personal injury claims. So if you guys have any opinion, just interrupt me, okay?
Sure.
So as we know, non-pecuniary loss are those damages that are not economic in nature, but it still affect a person's lifestyle and enjoyment of life. And we also not we also know that they cannot be quantified detail like the lost income or medical bills. So the court will not quantify the exact amount. So they put the lump sum amount, which is the general amount for the damages. So general damages are awarded for all the non-pecuniary damage or loss suffered whether pre or post trial that the plaintiff could not precisely calculate in exact monetary terms. So general damages for personal injuries are traditionally assessed under four heads, which is pain and suffering, loss of amenities, loss of consortium by husband or wife, loss of future earnings, and loss of earning capacity. So I think I will go one by one by the damages. So the first one is pain and suffering, which we know that covers the nature of the accident and its immediate aftermath, and the court will require evidence of precisely of what happened. And this compensation as award for the claimant for the pain and suffering by the time of the accident or future. And although these damages cannot be accurate measured in the financial terms, the court will assess the monetary value logically. So to claim under this head, the court will assess three things, which are the amount of damages according to the nature of the injuries. The second one is the length of hospitalization, and the last one is the future disability caused by the injury. Okay, so now let's take a look at the case of pain and suffering. In the case of Shanmugan, anak lelaki Gopal, and Zainal Abidin bin Nazim, in this case, the plaintiff suffered fractures at his right thigh and leg and his right hand. And after fixation of plate and screws, his right thigh had healed. However, to remove the plate, he needed to undergo the future operation. And after the operation, he had to back and forth to the hospital for dressing of the surgical wound and removal of stitches. As a result, he suffered anxiety. So the court here awarded him the sum of 5,000 ringgit for pain and suffering. However, the court stated that although the operation was in the future, but there were pain and suffering that he had to undergo for the future operation. So for the loss of amenities, it means that the lack of ability to carry out the daily life. For example, the inability to do usual activities such as running, walking, jumping, or driving. And it is important for us in each case to consider precisely what has been lost. According to the case of Sam Woon Hong and Kader Imran Shah, all of the injured individual personal circumstances such as age, marital status, his specific social or business position, depreciation of money value, and others must be considered. So, for example here, consider a fit and active individual who, as a result of an injury, would be unable to participate in sport or an outdoor lifestyle in the same way he did before the accident. So, as a result, if the plaintiff injury limit his ability to participate in sport or other pleasures that he loved before to his disability, he must be compensated under these damages, which is loss of amenities. So for the case of lost amenities, we can take a look at the case of Tai Tong Chiu and Abdul Rahman. In this case, the respondent suffered a dislocation of the left hip and fracture of the left leg. Due to the stiffness of the left hip, knee and ankle, he could not do the squat properly and run. So the court here takes into consideration of the respondent that he was an active sportsman as he played rugby and swimmer. So the court here gives the award in amount of 40,000 ringgit as for the pain and suffering and loss of amenities. So we can see that the plaintiff can recover the damages under the same heading, because before then, the plaintiff can recover the damages under the separate head. But after the amendment of the Civil Law Act 1956, the court today give a lump sum awards for all the components under the pain and suffering and loss of amenities. So for the second head under the general damages, which is the claim for loss of consortium by husband or wife. So in this claim, a husband or wife may claim for loss of consortium of the other spouse due to another party's negligence. So the aim for this damages under the loss of consortium is to compensate spouses or domestic partners when an injury to their spouse significantly disrupt their relationship. This is because the injury suffered by the victim can have long-term consequences on the person's relationship with his or her spouse. And some of the consequences may include marital strains, loss of companionship, unable to do activities together, sexual constraints, and inability to bear children. Okay, so now let's take a look at the case of loss of consortium. In the case of Bas Mini Hibah Surihan Berhad and Abdullah Salim, in this case, the respondent wife suffered amputation of her left leg due to an accident and successfully recovered damages from the appellant bus company. Then, the respondent, which is her husband, brought a claim against the bus company for loss of consortium. He complained that because of the accident, he has lost the physical and moral companionship of his wife. This is because his wife was no longer in a position to give him the comfort and care she once gave him as a wife due to her physical and mental state after the accident. So, in this case, the psychiatrist report certified that she was suffering from schizophrenia simplex with a secondary depression because of the amputation. She changed and became sensitive and irritable. She hit the husband and denied him completely all sexual relationship. So the court upheld the session court decision to award the respondent 3,000 ringgit as general damages. So now let's take a look for claiming under the loss of future earning. So to claim for the loss of future earnings, the plaintiff could claim under this if the injury he suffered caused him to be unable to work for some time after the trial or for the rest of his life. So in the case of Sam Moon Hong and Kadir Imran Shah, this is example for the case of the loss of future earning. In this case, the appellant, a contractor, was injured in a road accident. He was amputated in his right leg below the knee. So the High Court awarded 35,000 for pain and suffering, but refused award for the loss of future earnings because insufficient evidence. So the appellant appealed to the federal court, and the court found that the appellant was still doing and could continue his work as an estate contractor, the same business before the accident occurred. So this evidence showed that he was capable of supervising the work and giving instruction to his worker. So the federal court upheld the trial court decision. Okay, so now I will explain to how to calculate the loss of future earnings. Okay, so in Malaysia, the courts apply the multiplier approach. Under the section 28A, it provides the calculation of loss of future earnings. So there are various elements under this section that need to be proved for the plaintiff to succeed in his claim. The first element is the multiplier, which is provided under section 28A, section 2 and subsection D. So in this section, it provides for the calculation of the multiplier. It states that in assessing damages for the loss of future earnings, the court shall take into account two things. The first one is, in the case of a person who is 30 or below at the time when he was injured, the number of years purchased shall be 16. However, if the person is between 31 and 59 years old at the time when he was injured, the number of years purchased shall be calculated by using the figure 60, and then the court will minus the age of the person at the time when he was injured, and the court will divide the remainder by the figure 2. So this is the formula 59. So for example, if the age of the time injury he was 35, so it will divide by 2 and then times 60. Okay, so for the case of the multiplier, we can take a look at the case of N. Vijaya Kumar, Narayanasamy and Woon Chen Lim. So in this case, the court calculated the multiplier of a 25-year-old plaintiff at 60 years by referring to the section 28A, section 2 and subsection D. So here the court subtract the pre-trial period of 4 years of lost earnings suffered by the plaintiff, thus making the multiplier of the post-trial period at 12 years. Then the plaintiff received 4 years of pre-trial loss and 12 years of post-trial loss. So it made a total of 16 years purchase, as we can see as provided under the Act. So now let's take a look at the second element of section 28A. So the second element is the multiplicand. So under this section, it provides for the calculation of the multiplicand. Under this section, it provides that there is no damages unless the plaintiff can prove that, or the defendant admits that because of the injury, the plaintiff was in a good health first, and the second one, he was receiving earnings by his own labor or other gainful activity. So now let's take a look at the case of good health. Okay, in the case of Osman Effendi Mahmud and Muhammad Noh Kamis, the court found that in this case, there had been no evidence at all that the plaintiff was suffering from any form of ill health before the accident. So the court here held that the plaintiff was in good health but for the injury. So Osman here was in good health, so but because of the injury, he became ill. So he has fulfilled the element of the multiplicand. So for the second element, gainfully employed or earning. So in a claim for loss of future earning, the plaintiff also must prove that he was receiving earnings by his own labor or other gainful activity at the date of the accident. So in the case of Dirje Pertinella Halma and Muhammad Nur bin Baharo, in this case, the appellant, a qualified and registered nurse took unpaid leave for 2.5 years to cycle around the world. And on 24 October 1984, while cycling, a bus driven by the respondent knocked her down. So she suffered serious injuries, including spinal fracture with paralysis of the lower limbs, bladder, and bowel functions. And at the time, she was only 25 years old, so she claimed for loss of future earnings. So the issue arose in this case is whether she was receiving any earnings at the time of the accident. So the court held that the appellant was not entitled to any award of damages for loss of future earnings because she was not gainfully employed or receiving any earnings at the time of the accident. So we can see here that to claim for loss of future earnings, the plaintiff must gain any earning or he must be employed before the accident occur. So under the section 28 clause A also, it provides that the court shall not take into account any increment of the prospective earning in the future, which means that the court will only look at the basic salary, which means that they will not include any increment that will not be awarded at the time of the trial or after the accident. So we can see in the case of Chan Min Fang and Jackson Lim, the the judge said that the act does not allow the court to speculate on the increase in the salary sometime in the future. However, if the basic salary has increased, the court will look into that, and the increase of the salary must be actual and not prospective. Okay, so so now let's take a look at the last element that the plaintiff can claim under general damages, which is the loss of earning capacity. So under this claim, it arises when there was a risk for the future against the plaintiff as a result of the incident. For example, he might be paid less for the job or being terminated from the job after the accident occurred. So the person is entitled to claim for this type of damages only if he have previous history of employment, although at the time of the incident he was unemployed. So there are several signs that used by the court in determining the meaning of the term loss of earning capacity, which are the first one is where the court is certified that there is a real risk that the plaintiff will lose his job or get less paying job because of the injuries. And the second one is where the court certified that the plaintiff has suffered a loss of earning capacity even though there was no satisfactory evidence. And the third one is where the plaintiff was too young to earn anything. And the last one is where the plaintiff was a victim of the accident under section 28A, section 2, subsection C that state that the plaintiff must be receiving earning by his own labor or other gainful activity before he was injured. Okay, so in the case of Yang Yap Fong and Leong Pek Hoon, the appellant was involved in an accident. He was a 13-year-old schoolboy at the time. So at the time of hearing, he had just turned 19 and he was not employed. But his father, on the other hand, encouraged him to take a television repair course. So the court determined that there was sufficient evidence that the appellant is capable of finding work. However, the appellant's injuries from the accident, which were to his right ankle, would worsen with osteoarthritis. So as he gets older, the risk might increase. So as a result, after deducting 1/3 of life earnings, the court granted him 14 years of purchase. It estimates him monthly earning loss to be 100 ringgit. So according to the annuity tables, the total loss was 11,800 ringgit. So, however, the plaintiff was granted 12,000 ringgit by the court. So we can see that there is a difference between the general damages and special damages. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. There was a great explanation about the to differentiate those two types of damages. I think for now, let us focus on the first issue, which is to discuss whether Zaina can recover the medical and therapy costs and from whom.
Yeah.
So for this one, I have an opinion regarding this. So for the issue is whether Zaina can claim for medical and therapy costs from Rana, as I have mentioned before. So the special damages, as we know, are actual pecuniary losses that the plaintiff had suffered, which is recoverable for medical and therapy costs due to personal injury. So, as explained in the case of Samun Hung and Kader Ibram Shah, special damage consists of out-of-pocket expenses such as hospital bills and actual loss of earning during period of total incapacity, and is generally capable of substantially exact calculation. So it is a well-established principle of special damages that in order to claim, proper measure of damages must be included as it must be proved and not too remote, as mentioned in the case of Ong Ah Long and Dr. S. Underwood. So in the context of special damages, medical expenses fall under the category of out-of-pocket expenses. Thus, the principle of restitutio in integrum is applied by the courts in awarding damages by means placing the plaintiff in the same financial situation he would have been in if the damage had not occurred. So this is a remedy that allows a party to be restored against his own deed. So I think we can rely on the case of Adventist Hospital and Clinic Services and Ki Bun Swan, which this case is about the day after two orthopedic surgeons assisted by an anesthetist operated on an active 12 years old girl to strengthen her slightly crooked spine at the Adventist Hospital and Clinical Services. So the girl's condition rapidly deteriorated and she became a quadriplegic, which is paralyzed from the neck and down and dependent on ventilator for breathing. So one of the surgeon then recommended a surgery and the parents agreed, which is the parents of the girl. Then there was a surgeon who was then working in another hospital to assist him in the surgery under the hospital's approval. So in not normal practice in such surgery, spinal cord monitoring device is used to prevent damage to the spinal cord from overstretching of the spinal column. However, the surgeons did not use the device during the surgery and did not request from the hospital to provide. So in result, her condition became worse as she had suffered spinal cord damage as shown through the. Then the court held that by Nordin Hassan, Judicial Committee awarded the plaintiff a quadriplegic, which is the sum of 5,623,100 5,623,802 made up as follows. Sorry, 5,623,802 made up as follows, which are the cost of disabled family home, cost of disabled friendly motor vehicle, and other medical expenses, which had a total of, as I've mentioned before. So in Zainal's situation, the doctor who treated Zainal had taped up his ankle, gave him crutches, and prescribed 12 weeks of physical therapy. So these medical expenses thus recoverable as it is categorized under out-of-pocket expenses in the context of special damages. So here, by the principle of restitutio in integrum, um, the court apply here as the defendant is ought to compensate Zainal as to put the victim back to the position he would have been in but for the accident. So the total is as follows, which these are the total that Zainal had to bear for his medical expenses, which are the cost of ankle injury treatment, cost of 180 ringgit, cost of equipment, which is the crutches that he used, 70 ringgit, and the cost of physical therapy for 12 weeks, that is in total of 2,400 ringgit. So the total of his medical expenses is 2,650 ringgit. So the conclusion, I conclude that Mr. Zainal may recover his claim from Rana for the medical and therapy costs, as the personal injury that he had suffered had been proved that it was caused by Rana's negligence of not exercising the duty of care upon another road user, who is Mr. Zainal, where she drove the car over the speed limit. So thus, there was an actual cause between them that shows Rana had breached the duty of care that she should have been exercised. So withstanding the reasonable special damages, Rana is ought to pay Zainal with the total of 2,650 ringgit upon the damage that she had caused towards Zainal. So in conclusion, it is contended that Zainal can claim from Rana for his medical and therapy costs, as it is proved that the injury that he has suffered was due to Rana's negligence.
Okay, thank you, Misila. Okay, next I'll discuss on second issue, which is whether Zainal can recover the income loss from the 4-month delay in opening his business and from home. Mm, okay. Okay, the first point to be looked at is multiplier approach, which the issue arises is whether the plaintiff's age qualifies him to claim the damages. According to Section 28A, Clause 2, Section C, Subsection 1 of the Act, the court shall not award the damages for loss of future earnings to the plaintiff who has attained the age of 60 years old or above at the time of his injury. This can be seen in the case of Tan Liang Heng and Kilang Papan Aman Sendirian Berhad, where the plaintiff was run over by the tire of the first defendant's forklift, which was being driven by the second defendant. His right foot was crushed and deformed. As a result, he walked with a limp. The accident happened while the plaintiff was working as a forklift attendant, and at the time of the accident, the plaintiff was only 17 years old. He claimed that the defendant were negligent and sought compensation from his employers for lost wages for 40 months, expenses, and damages. The court then held that the defendant was entirely liable and the plaintiff was 25 years old at the time of judgment and could work for another 30 years up the normal retirement of age of 55. And as a result, the court determined that a multiplier of 25 years damages was reasonable for the plaintiff to receive for loss of future earnings. And as provided under Section 28A, Clause C, Subsection 1, people under the age of 60 can claim the damages for loss of future earnings from the defendant. Thus, and Zainal was only at the age of 35 years old when the accident happened. So, Zainal is entitled to claim under these damages from Ranam, the defendant. And regarding the years of purchase that should be compensated for Zainal, we can use the formula that had mentioned by Miss Fatima before this, which is 59 minus the age at the time of the injury and divided by 2. So therefore, Zainal should receive 12 years of purchase from the defendant. Okay, so the next point is burden of proof on the plaintiff, which the issue is whether the plaintiff suffered a real substantial accessible loss. Okay, the plaintiff must establish that the accident had resulted in his loss of future earnings. And if the evidence sufficiently indicates no loss of future earnings, the court will not give any award for it, as mentioned in the case of Samun Hong and Kadi Ibrahim Shah. And the appellant is a contractor where he was injured in a road accident and he was amputated in his right leg below the knee. The High Court then awarded 35,000 for the pain and suffering but refuses award for the loss of future earnings because insufficient evidence. And on appeal to the federal court, the court found the appellant was still doing and could continue his work as an estate contractor, the same business before the accident. And the evidence showed that he was capable of supervising the work and giving instruction to his workers. The FC then upheld the trial court decision. Okay, so, however, in Zainal's situation, it is proof that the injury prevented him from opening his new home business for 4 months as he need to wear the crutches and getting prescribed for 12 weeks of physical therapy. It caused him to be unable to proceed with his work in the future. Thus, Zainal can claim damages under loss of future earnings as there is sufficient evidence that he cannot go to work and open up his new home business for another 4 months. Okay, and lastly, on gainfully employed or earning, the issue is whether the plaintiff can recover his living expenses. In Section 28E, Clause 2, Section 6, Subsection 2 of the Civil Law Act, it provides that the plaintiff must prove that he was receiving earnings by his own labor or other gainful activity at the date of the accident. And in the case of Khamis Muhammad Nurhari and Amir Hamza, a person not receiving earnings on the date of the accident is not entitled to loss of future earnings, such as someone on no pay leave, unemployed, or whose employment is not permanent. And according to the case of Lim and K and Jaafar bin Muhammad Said, the respondent was a trained school teacher and involved in a car accident. The accident caused the appellant from suffering a severe brain injury as well as fractures on the right thigh bone and jawbone and was given an absence by the university. And after resuming his studies, he could not do well in his studies and was asked to leave by the university. And his father then arranged a private tuition, but after teaching for 1 week, he gave up the job because unable to concentrate and remains unemployed. The plaintiff then received an award for loss of future earnings as he would have earned a salary as a graded teacher if not for the injuries sustained. And for this situation, Mr. Zainal is a businessman where he already had his income. Thus, he was already gained earning before the accident occurred. And while undergoing the therapy, he could not continue his work and had not received any salary. Thus, Zainal was entitled to claim the damages to cover the loss he need to assure. So, in conclusion, Mr. Zainal can claim the damages on loss of future earnings as he already met the age requirement under the Section 28A, Clause C, Section C, subsection sorry, um, Zainal can claim the damages on loss of future earnings as he already met the age requirement under Section 28A, Clause 2, Section C, Subsection 1. And it was also proved that he was in a good health before the accident occurred, as he can do the usual activities such as where he was cycling before the accident occurred. And furthermore, Mrs. Zainal was gainfully and earnings. Besides, as Rana could reasonably foresee that she has the potential to injure him and already meets the requirement of proximity of the relationship, Rana owed the duty of care towards Zainal. Thus, Zainal can claim the damages for loss of future earnings from Rana. So I think that's all from me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with you too. So, is this all?
Yeah, I think that's all. So maybe we can call
Yeah.
Mr. Zainal to join our discussion.
So, let's call him now.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Zainal.
Oh, hi.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm very okay today.
Um, could you open up your camera?
Sorry.
She already turned on her camera.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I think my internet was bad. Okay.
It's
So,
okay.
welcome back to the session. I hope you are in a great mood. So are you doing good?
Yes, I'm feeling so much better now, and thank you for asking.
Okay. Isn't the weather nice today?
Yeah, it's quite sunny here, and it's literally lighting up my mood.
Yes. I agree with you. It's very sunny here too. We would like to acknowledge that we took some time to finally meet you again. So thank you so much for your patience.
Oh, it's okay. I understand.
Okay. So now My co-counsels will explain regarding your problem and the solutions that you might take. So now let's proceed to our discussion.
All right.
All right. So first, we will explain regarding the first issue which you asked, that whether can you claim for the medical and therapy costs. So upon the matter, yes, you can claim those under special damages. So as in your situation, it has shown that the accident was caused by Rana, right? Who acts
Yes.
as the defendant here. So
Mm-hmm.
based on the facts that you have mentioned to us, that she was driving the car with the speed limit and accidentally hit you when you were cycling due to the failure of controlling the car. So this
Mm-hmm.
proves that she had breached the duty of care. So simply speaking, she did not drive the car carefully and had breaking the rules of the road. So from here, we can see that there is a link of causation, which she had caused the damage in the first place. So hence, due to the personal injury that you have suffered, you may claim under special damages from Rana for the medical expenses that you have to bear, as to pay for the medical and therapy costs for the ankle injury. So I've also done some calculation here,
Mm-hmm.
which is the total of your medical expenses is 2,650 ringgit, which consists of 180 ringgit for ankle treatment, 70 ringgit for crutches, and 2,400 ringgit in total of 12 weeks physical therapy. So these medical expenses are recoverable under special damages that ought to be compensated by Rana as to cover the damage that she had caused towards you. So are you clear on that?
Yes, I'm very clear. Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so now I'm going to explain to you about the second issue, which you
Okay.
asked whether you can claim the income loss from the 4 months delay in opening your business. So our answer will be yes, you can claim the damages and the loss of future earnings. It's because by the accident happened, you are 35 years old, isn't it?
Yes.
By the law, you already meet the requirement to claim for the loss of future earnings. And also, regarding the amount of years that you shall receive, we have calculated and found that you can claim for the total amount of 12 years of purchase from Rana, which means Rana will be liable to pay the damages to you for those years.
Mm-hmm.
And moreover, the accident might prevent you from working in the future as you suffer enough injury and might obstruct you to continue the business. And plus, you also mentioned before that you had never suffered any health complication and the injury was only caused by the accident itself. So therefore, you can be awarded on loss of future earnings from Rana, which is the dependent. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
So,
Okay,
are you
so
clear? Okay.
thank you, Miss Haifa and Miss Ila. Okay, so Mrs. Zainal, are you clear with the explanations that we provide?
Yes, but I do have a questions. Does it mean I can claim for all the damages that I have suffered for Rana? So does she needs to pay me as the stated amount?
Oh, okay. Yes, you can. So, to make it short, you can claim for both the medical and therapy costs that you have to bear because of the injury, and you also can claim for the lost income that you have suffered. So, both of these claims you can claim from Rana.
Oh, I see. Now I'm clear with the option that I have.
So what do you think of the solutions that we have given you? Again, we would like to emphasize that this is your option. You are free to decide whether to proceed with us or not, because we accept with an open heart.
Yes, and thank you. I really appreciate all of your suggestions. I will reconsider it. I promise to call you back as soon as possible.
Sure, no problem. You may contact us at any time you want, and we are looking forward to have another session with you. So, with that, see you soon and goodbye. Take care.
All right, thank you. You too.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Mr.
Mrs.
Zainal.
Zainal.
Take care.
Okay. Thank
See
you.
you.
Thank you.
You too.